I was just asked by the team if I went to see Madonna last night. Really? I saw Madonna many, many years ago. God bless her. She has reinvented herself a million times. The only, our esteemed business leader on the sales side, Jeff Marcero, who goes to everything, God bless him, was there. And he said it was for 40 years he hasn't seen her, and so he checked it off on the list. But I have not had a chance to ask him if it was a great show. If you're listening now and you went to Madonna, was it a great show? Here comes Ann Thomas, our fearless leader in programming. I can bet you $100 you did not go see Madonna last night. No, she did not go see. I know her well. We were together for 30 plus years. So anyway, she didn't. Do you know that Jeff Marcero went to Madonna? Did he say it was any good? Did he say anything? Yeah, I haven't heard from Jeff on that yet. All right. I'm sure this is all fascinating to our next guest. John Sellek is CEO of Harbor Strategic Public Affairs, and he's on the other end of our line right now, and we're so glad to have you here. John, I'm not even going to ask you if you went to see Madonna last night.
No, if I knew we were going to be talking about Madonna, I would have got better prepared. I saw some videos, I saw some people who attended, but I did not make it.
Well, I didn't know we were going to talk about it. I was thrown a curveball by the team here who asked if I went to see Madonna last night. It was never on my mind, ever. You said you had some friends that went. Did they tell you if it was good?
Yeah, I think they enjoyed it. For
good.
People who are big fans, they loved it. I saw a video of Hank Winchester. I didn't get to talk to him from Channel 4, but he was loving it. So you'll have to get him on the show and talk about it.
Well, maybe we will, maybe we won't. I love Hank, but I'm not sure we'll be able to get to that. But you never can tell. John, we're getting to you to talk a little bit about this whole presidential race. And, of course, everybody knows by now that the mainstream media misled us, saying Nikki Haley was going to beat Ron DeSantis. That was not true. That was, as former President Donald Trump would say, was fake news. The real news was, no surprise that President Trump did well. However, maybe a surprise that he had 51% in every county but one in Iowa.
Yeah, it really was a complete wipeout by Donald Trump. And, you mentioned some of these wide numbers. No one had ever had in the GOP primary in Iowa 51%. Nobody had cleared 50 before he did that. No one beat the second place finisher, who was Ron DeSantis, by such a wide margin. He won by 30, which was, I think, almost double the previous victory by somebody who won Iowa. And like you said, the polling going into it had second and third place reversed. They showed Nikki Haley on the rise, and they showed Ron DeSantis on the decline. But in Iowa, not terribly different than other primary states, but because it starts building up more than a year ahead of time, the ground game is so vital. And that certainly seemed to be where Ron DeSantis spent a lot of his money and his time, and that powered him into that second place finish.
Well, regardless of how it happened, it did happen, and without question, this has given a boost. It's given a little renewed life, I would think, to Governor Ron DeSantis.
Well, for sure, especially with any campaign, the lifeblood is cash, because you got to keep the lights on, you got to put ads on the air, you got to keep your staff paid. And the governor had invested millions into Iowa, and it paid off. He finished in second place, but he needs those donors to stay with him, and it's a lot harder to call them today, the next day, and say, hey, I'm on a jet to New Hampshire, I need more money. It's going to be a lot easier for him to do that today. He proved that there was a return on investment going forward, and that's where the concern probably is for Nikki Haley. She's been in second place in a lot of these polls, which you are suspect of, I understand, in New Hampshire. But when they tested who was very excited to get out and support their candidate in Iowa, 49% of Trump voters said they were extremely excited to go out and vote, and only 9% were extremely excited to vote amongst Nikki Haley supporters. And so this momentum thing is real. We've seen it over and over again over the years between Iowa and New Hampshire. Nikki Haley has to try to hold on to that, and she ended up coming in third, so it may put a little dent in her momentum in New Hampshire.
John Sellek, CEO, Harbor Strategic Public Affairs, filling us in on all of this. Does it matter? Well, first of all, do you think Nikki Haley is going to have trouble getting money? I'm thinking the people who love Nikki Haley are going to stay with Nikki Haley, and that's that. But does it matter, John, as I pointed out earlier, that only 5% of Iowans actually caucus? 5%. So Former President Trump, with all due respect, swept 5% of the population of Iowa. Does that mean anything?
Well, we depend on polling every day, and they only talk to 300 people or 600 people or maybe 1,000. And it is true that the delegates that were selected in Iowa last night only add up to 1.6% of the total that's needed to win the nomination.
Wow.
But Iowa goes first. It sets the tone for a lot of things. It showed that the Trump campaign certainly had their act together. It showed that people are ready to be supportive of and be behind Donald Trump and give him that big of a margin. And that's why it's no surprise that in his remarks last night, I thought he was pretty disciplined. Paul, in the past, he would have been joyfully mocking and teasing those he beat last night. But he tried to look more like the leader of the party. He's trying to bring those supporters into the fold sooner than later and trying to say, hey, why are we caring about another primary where we wonder who will be in second or third place? I'm the winner. Let's just get started on this Biden-Trump rematch.
I'm so glad you brought that up, John Sellek, because it was almost not jarring, but was so different from the way well, you understand what I mean. I mean, he actually called Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley. He actually called Ron DeSantis, Ron DeSantis. And he said they've done a nice job. He didn't come up with Ron DeSanctimonious and whatever else he's used. I thought that do you think somebody has actually gotten to him and suggested for those undecided, maybe it would help if he acted more, quote unquote, presidential?
Absolutely. And there's a different team around him. Remember when he ran in 2016, it was just him and a few people over there in Trump Tower in Manhattan. They didn't really expect to win. And certainly he had resources around him as a president running for re-election, but he's pared down the operation to a small group of people who are really tough advisors, and they seem to have succeeded in keeping him more disciplined, keeping his eyes on the prize. And then, he can say what he wants after should he win. But yeah, absolutely. He called Nikki Haley last night. That was a great observation.
It was pretty amazing, I thought. All right, John Sellek, we thank you for your expertise. CEO of Harbor Strategic Public Affairs. We'll look forward to our next conversation. And hello, New Hampshire, up next.
That's right.
Thanks, John.
Yep, thank you.